I'd like to call the meeting to order. My name is Anthea Martin. I'm the chair of the State Housing Board. Thank you all for your attendance today. We will start the meeting with the approval of the June 2023 meeting votes. Are there any comments, questions, or can I please request a vote for approval?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the June 2023 meeting votes.
Thanks, LaDawn.
Second.
I second.
That was a motion for approval by LaDawn and a second by James, I believe. All those in favor signified by aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Wonderful, thank you all. Next up, the director's comments and budget update and from Allison George.
Thank you, Anthea. Tomorrow is a big day. We are going to be starting our summer engagement forums. And Monique, the first one's in Grand Junction. And so hoping that you'll be able to join us if you're available. We do that together with Housing Colorado and with CHAFA. And this year we're joined by both OEDIT and with the Division of Local Government, our sister division, excuse me, because we'll be talking a lot about Proposition 123 in particular and the rollout of that, which is exciting. And so the first meeting is Wednesday, July 12th in Grand Junction, and then the following day in Durango. We'll also be in Pueblo on the 18th, and on the 26th, we'll be in Fort Collins. We'll be in the Mountain Resort area in Frisco, Summit County on July 28th, and then finally in Denver on August 8th. So I would encourage folks to participate and to join one of our summer engagement forums because we'll be providing updates and it's an opportunity to provide feedback on how things are going. And then also, it's a good way for us to ensure that we are out and in our communities. That said, I just do want to remind folks that we actually are daily out because we have staff throughout the state. We did before COVID, but we've learned so much through COVID. And so with our hybrid world, we've been able to hire more and more people throughout the state, which is fantastic. So on that note, with Proposition 123, I wanted to mention the different communities that have already been approved and opted in to 123. And so the first one was the city of Salida, followed by Sheridan, Hayden, Rangeley, Colorado Springs, the city of Boulder, and the county of Boulder, and then Erie, Flagler, and Pritchett. And so today, Candace Payne, our board member, is not able to join us, but proudly from Flagler, very happy our board has gotten this town to opt in, which is exciting. So on that note, I also wanted to mention that with the start of Prop 123, we, with July 1st, are starting to take applications for the acquisition, new construction, and rehab of both homeownership and supportive housing. And so those will be a part of our monthly applications. So that's Prop 123 monthly applications. In addition, mobile home park acquisition, that's also a part of our monthly applications. So you all will start seeing this soon. On our revolving loan fund programs like our owner repair and down payment assistance, we do those through regular application processes. And so with the owner repair program, those came in, the first round came in July 1st. We'll be doing a special second round September 1st. And then down payment assistance will be December 1st. So with the homelessness programs through Prop 123, like I said, supportive housing applications for development are part of our monthly application. So are bridge housing. important to highlight. And then on the services side, outreach, rapid rehousing will all be a part of our Emergency Solutions Grant NOFA, which comes out in the fall. So this was all included in our email newsletter that came out last month, actually, and this month. We included both. But I wanted to make sure that this was highlighted since this is a big month. The funds are available and we will start receiving applications now, really. And then with rental assistance and eviction diversion, there will be a special NOFA in the coming months. So it's important to take a look for that. All of that, I want to mention that we are actually going to take a holiday. Yes, the Division of Housing is taking a holiday in September and October. It's not from everything. We will not be taking our monthly applications during that time. The intent of taking that holiday is us to be able to focus on what our application processes are, updating, improving, really fine-tuning the work that we're doing. Anything that is in process, we will not put on hold. We will continue to bring those things to you. It's just that we will not be taking monthly applications. All that said, I forwarded a little earlier today that the governor has picked up on all of your great work and the Division of Housing's work through the Transformational Affordable Housing Grants and Loans. Or grants, I should say. And so the governor sent out a press release, very exciting. We have everyone's attention. So we have the press release came out today talking about the Transformational Affordable Housing grants that were made. And the governor said about this grant builds upon our ongoing work to build more housing now. And we are excited that the support will add and preserve 1,353 affordable housing units across the state. We know that there is more work to do to make sure that Coloradans have access to the housing they need to thrive. And I'm hopeful that we can further remove barriers to new housing and make Colorado a more affordable place to live. So Governor Polis provided that quote and a press release. And so your work has been noticed and shared with many. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. LaDawn.
Hi, how are we communicating to people that were not taking applications in September and October?
So we first sent it through our email newsletter, and that went out last week. We will continue to discuss that in the summer engagement sessions, and then it'll also be posted on our website. And if you have any additional suggestions for communicating that, we are happy to hear those and to share those as well. Anthea?
Hey, Allison. I believe that the jurisdictions have until November to opt in for 123. It sounded like none of the Denver MSA cities had opted in yet. Do you have a sense as to whether or not they plan to?
So Denver has submitted their opt-in request, and it's under review, and it is looking good, but it's not official, is what I would say. So we are still working through. We have quite a few applications. When July rolled around, we had a lot of folks submitting their applications to the Division of Housing. So we're going through those now, and that includes the city of Denver.
Awesome. That is great news. Thank you.
Absolutely. Sam?
Thank you, Allison. It has indeed been a busy year for all of us, sure. And a lot of great results as a result of all the great money that's been available. Thank goodness. It's been a watershed year for sure. Interesting to hear you talk about the retreat that you're going to have with the staff to talk about process and procedures. One of the areas that I've noticed that has really kind of become a backlog is in legal these days and contracting. Is there anything anything we as a board can do to help you as the director and the staff to get more resources to help clear up that backlog?
Thank you, Sam. I appreciate you asking that question. So we continue to work on staffing is what I would start with. And we do have wonderful staff that we've been able to hire. We have not been able to hire the volume of human beings that we would like to support that 500% plus increase in demand. That all said, we continue down that path for hiring and going through the state processes, which are very specific in that process. In addition, I just want to highlight that we, as a division and as a department, have a wildly important goal to decrease the time from application through the contract execution by 50%. Okay, so we will do that through, and this is a new one, because remember we're on fiscal year, so this is a new fiscal year, wildly important goal. And so we will do that through many ways. We are working on updating our application system and our contract management system. Okay, so the idea with that is to improve transparency with our applicants so that they know when their application was accepted and when their application goes to the State Housing Board and when their contract is being drafted. That's one aspect of it. We are also looking at creating templates, the possibility of a template that you can choose two paths. You can choose the fast track or you can choose the slower path where we're going to negotiate the documents with you. If you choose the fast track, then we are going to bring stakeholders in and we're going to work through those documents together with the Attorney General's office and the State Controller's office and DOH to negotiate those insurance requirements, to negotiate some of those key factors that we see repeatedly in the documents with folks so that we can have a more streamlined process and not have to spend months and months and months negotiating documents. Because what we're doing in that process is we're looking at where do we have the biggest lag times. And those are the areas that we're identifying and we're trying to tackle as we're looking at reducing that median time by 50%. So we would appreciate your input and participation in those processes as we're looking to streamline things.
Well, that sounds really great. Appreciate hear that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Appreciate the question. And we will also be talking about that during those summer engagement sessions as well. Okay, anything else? Sam.
Sorry, maybe one last question. It's kind of like my repeated question about the budget stuff, and when I see the negative number in the HDG line, what do you anticipate as some future revenues coming in? I think the negative number was about 42 million at this point, and I know how the system kind of works, but I was just kind of wondering what's the anticipation for new revenues?
So the anticipation is still based on general fund, vendor fee. There is the slight chance of unclaimed assets at some point in the future. Marijuana tax cash fund, the regular budget items that we have, okay? So those are what the projections are based on. When you talk about the negative number, so what that means is that we are out in commitment, but what that means also is that with vendor fee, it's a monthly infusion into the Division of Housing budget. So it's not like at the beginning of the year, we put all of that money in the budget and now you're making awards to that. We have the monthly infusion into the Division of Housing. And so we are planning toward that. And so that 40 million that you're talking about is talking about the future investment of vendor fee.
So through the end of the year, you anticipate that to be at least 40 million plus?
That is correct. And the other thing to look out for is our programs, our federal programs, come in August and September. And so that's when those commitments would start to come into that budget as well. That's part of the challenge as you're looking at that, is you're looking at the timing of when those awards are infused into that budget.
So it's kind of done more on a cash basis rather than kind of like an accrual basis.
That is correct.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Monique?
Yeah, just the meeting. It's on the 12th, right? And where is it at? I'm sorry.
We will put that in the chat.
Okay.
Okay. And
Thank
also
you.
the link for registering.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for asking. Okay.
Thank you, Allison.
Thank you all.
Next up, we will we'll have the AHIC 23 presentations. Today we have 2 to review, and presenting will be Andrew Paredes.
Thanks, Anthea. First off, I'll kind of set the table that these are the first in a few first in a string of AHIP 23, or Affordable Housing Investment Fund 2023 applications that we will be bringing to the board. These are very similar to the initial AHIP round that you all reviewed and recommended approval for last year. Although these new funds are supported by Senate Bill 22-159. So the overall idea for the AHIP programs are the state is investing capital with existing affordable housing finance groups. So be they CDFIs, nonprofits who are making loans themselves to affordable housing developers, or individual homeowners aspiring, needing down payment assistance, that kind of thing. So the idea behind the AHIP is we can spread capital out around the state, rely on trusted third-party administrative partners to do the applications, the underwriting, and the contracting, and to have different channels to get this money out into the public as quickly and efficiently as possible. So I'm very happy that the first 2 of these applications are coming before the board today. So the first one I'd like to present is Habitat for Humanity of Colorado's request. Habitat for Humanity of Colorado is the statewide organization providing capacity building services to the 25 statewide Habitat for Humanity affiliates. These services include funding and financing, state level advocacy, training, technical assistance, and disaster response coordination. Habitat for Humanity of Colorado has applied for $5 million of AHIP 23 financing to grow its revolving loan fund, which provides affiliates across the state needed upfront capital for acquisition and/or construction of affordable homeownership opportunities. This revolving loan fund was established in 2020 and has grown to $3.5 million with 3 capital investments from CHAFA. Habitat for Humanity of Colorado will utilize the recommended $5 million AHIP award to expand these RLF programs. This is estimated to result in an additional 20 homeownership opportunities annual to be able to be developed. The short-term nature of these RLF loans will allow the funds to revolve and be used year over year by Habitat for Humanity of Colorado and its affiliates. I would like to point out that in your write-up, there was a transposition or typographical error. Habitat for Humanity of Colorado is requesting to be able to charge up to 75 basis points in an origination fee to its customers, to its affiliates. That is well within the 1.5% limit set forth by the program. And it was mistakenly written that Habitat will pay DOLA a 75 basis point annual fee, when in actuality, it will be the standard 50 basis point annual administration fee. That's simply a typo that we will correct for the final write-up that gets posted to the State Housing Board's website. With that, I'd like to introduce Karen Kallenberg of Habitat for Humanity of Colorado for any questions.
I'm happy to make a comment. But thank you, Andrew, for doing that great
Sure.
overview.
Sam.
I'm sorry, I wasn't sure if there was more presentation coming or if this was the appropriate time for a question. Good time, okay. Thank you for the presentation, Andrew. And I was wondering, I believe it was several meetings ago, we heard a presentation from one of the Greeley habitats, the habitat over in Greeley, and they seem to have a unique way of kind of funding some of their production. It sounded like more construction, traditional construction related lending to get the homes up and going. I'm wondering, Karen, could you comment on that and how these funds would interface potentially with that?
Yes, happy to. So a short answer is we really tried to find capital for affiliates that made it easy and affordable for them. Generally, our rates are going to be less than your traditional construction loans, or even partnering with the USDA for construction loans. And so it actually came about during a listening tour when I was traveling and was in Pagosa Springs, and they were having a hard time accessing capital. And so again, we have a product that we were able to develop. It is pretty much, Sam, a traditional construction loan. Our amount right now is $3 million. And so, we've been able to do, actually I have updated numbers, 57 units, and lend out 5.6 million for that. But affiliates do utilize other capital streams and construction loans, because right now we're still in the process of growing ours. So I think this just expands the opportunity to work and to be able to fund more projects across the state. But affiliates still, I always say if there's a way to find cheaper money, easier money, like I'm not gonna stop anyone from doing that. But I think those, they've really appreciated the opportunity. And not to keep going, but I am really proud of what's happening in Pagosa Springs. Last year we funded through our construction loan, we funded 2 modular units. That meant that they went from building 1 home every 18 months to 2 homes. And this year in Pagosa Springs, we're doing a construction loan for 3 modular units. And so they wouldn't be able to do that if it wasn't for our lending products. So.
Okay, thanks so much.
Mr. Garcia?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a question for staff. Andrew, I'm curious if this round of AHEF is considered to be non-recourse loans to these programs?
Great question. So we have 2 offerings in this round of AHIP. This application from Habitat for Humanity of Colorado is structured as what we call a performance grant. So the money is set aside in grant form to the applicant. So the applicant is not required to pay the money back. It's not an absolute line of credit borrowing by Habitat from the state. However, similar to our traditional down payment assistance and SFOO programs, we're providing the funds to the applicant, who will then lend these funds out in a responsible manner that we have kind of underwritten in terms of their process and procedures. And all repayments that they receive will be accounted for in a separate program income-like account in order to be relent, so that we can kind of keep an eye on the success of the funds, as well as their revolving for the same approved uses. The applicant will be required to pay the state a 50 basis point annual administration fee, kind of like an interest rate or cost of capital. so that the state can continue to monitor and manage the contract on an ongoing basis. So in this case, if there were a loss, the state would not be asking the applicant to absolutely repay, but would be expecting that the applicant, as they would as a lender, work out any loss and get the maximum repayment possible. And that amount would go into their program income account for future loans going out the door.
All right, thank you.
Andrew, will you be presenting the next deal as well?
Yep, I sure would.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Karen. Thank you, board. Okay, the next applicant we have is Chai Debt Capital LLC. Chai, or the Colorado Housing Accelerator Initiative, was founded in 2021 in response to pandemic-era pressures on housing and the desire to help mission-driven funders across the public and private sectors meet the moment by rapidly investing in affordable housing through a pooled fund vehicle. Co-founders Ed Briscoe and Abby Murray of Weave Social Finance, the owner and investment managers of Chai, Ed and Abby bring extensive experience in facilitating triple bottom line impact investments in affordable housing and structuring and managing affordable housing funds. The Chai is a social enterprise with a mission to supplement the important work of government, nonprofit, and traditional banks and CDFIs by focusing on projects serving the missing middle households between that 80 and 120% of AMI, projects that require rapid, flexible, and below market subordinate loans to supplement other sources of capital, and shared prosperity to help renters build wealth through Chai's innovative tenant equity vehicle program, which is now being offered to residents of 200 plus units. Chai closed its first funding round in 2021 and closed its first project investment in May of 2022. Since then, Chai has moved rapidly and is approximately 100% deployed under the Chai Debt Fund. Chai has also closed a second sister fund, the Equity Capital Fund, which has raised $13 million, anchored by Chaffa and Gary Community Ventures, and is nearly 70% deployed on the equity side. Chai is seeking additional investment to enable it to respond to pipeline demands, bring the tenant equity vehicle program to more properties, and position it to continue to raise follow-on matching capital to grow its mission. Specifically with this request, Chai is seeking an additional funding to its debt fund to continue its affordable housing lending activities. In 2022, DOH invested $5 million in the Chai Debt Fund. This was coupled with $5.8 million of outside capital, and to date, Chai has deployed $9.9 million of this additional capital statewide. With that, I would like to introduce Ed Briscoe and Abby Murray of Chai for any questions.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for having us.
Sam.
Thanks, Anthea. Couple of questions. Abby, I'm not sure if you want to take this or whomever. One is, with normal kind of rental programs, there's a fairly detailed way about how operators have to do compliance. How do you do compliance in these sort of settings, and who makes up the rules?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. So often in the projects we're working on, we're partnering with, it's a capital stack with multiple different lenders. Often in projects where Chaffa or another public sector entity is involved, we will follow their affordability requirements and compliance procedures. But we also layer in kind of standard reporting covenants on a quarterly and annual basis, and have, the right to conduct an audit of properties and visits and inspections. And so I think it looks pretty much like a CDFI would structure reporting and compliance. But we do, as a lender, we can also add additional covenants into our loan agreement if there's something beyond what the public sector might be requiring in a deal, or if we're part of a project where there isn't a public sector entity involved. And we have looked at a couple of those types of projects where we are responsible for defining the affordability restrictions, and we have a form of regulatory agreement that's modeled on kind of mainly the CHAFA and the City of Denver documents. So we really follow kind of those standards for recording a use restriction.
And then Andrew, how would the division treat compliance?
I was just about to follow on to that, Sam, so thanks for the question. There is a minimum level of affordability and compliance requirements defined by the statute, Senate Bill 22-159. So as staff, we have asked CHI to send us their program guidelines, and so that we are sure that their program meets at least the minimum required by statute. In addition, with every draw that the applicant is making, when they go to make a loan, they will send to us a draw packet, which includes their loan agreement and their recorded use covenants or long-term affordability assurances for staff review prior to staff dispersing that draw to CHI, who can then lend it out to its customer.
Okay, great, thanks. And then one final question. There was some brief financials for CHI in the write-up, and noticed that last year was kind of a rough year. There was some explanation to that as well. I didn't see a projection for 2023 in terms of financials. Do you all have that, and have you submitted that to the state?
We do have that. Andrew, I don't remember if we submitted that as part of our application, but just in terms of the financials, I'll just add a little bit of context in that. So Weave Social Finance is founded by Ed Briscoe. It's a kind of consulting and fund management practice, and has incubated the CHI funds since we started to fundraise in 2021. And so the last 2 years for the CHI financials have basically involved raising capital up until a point where we could open our doors and start lending it out in spring of 2022. And so through kind of Q2 2022, we were really just in capital raising mode and didn't have any loans in our portfolio. And so we closed our first loan May 2022, and we now have 5 loans in the portfolio, soon to be 6 as of the end of this week. And so with that, the CHI financials, we can provide projections through 2023. But we've had our first 2 consecutive quarters of positive net income, and we've just tipped the scales from having negative net assets due to investing a lot in the startup of this initiative. We are a social enterprise, so we're not a nonprofit. So it has been funded privately to get off the ground. And so we've just tipped over into positive net assets, and we're projecting to continue to build on those as we accrue reserves and net income. And Weave, as the parent entity, has been incurring those costs to start up the funds. And now that we've reached kind of an operational level, Weave's projections will also improve for this year. And happy to provide any follow-on information about that. Or Ed, if you want to jump in as well.
And
I'm on mute. No, I think you covered it well. I think, yeah, it's crossed over into profitability for both funds, with the fund management fees kicking in for both funds at a much higher level than they were last year.
And I'm assuming staff has kind of looked at all that, kind of assured sustainability of the organization.
Sam, thanks. I'd certainly want to follow on and give credit to Andy Kaska from our underwriting team, who worked on both of these deals. That was certainly something that we initially highlighted as a concern. as it should be in analyzing financial statements. But in working with the applicant, understanding that expenses in the year 2022 were indeed front-loaded, and talking to the applicant about successful closings towards the end of 2022 and into 2023, of which many came through our initial AHIP program. So we were also able to see that those deals closed, understand and substantiate the fact that they were real and would be providing that ongoing interest income. It satisfied staff in terms of the sustainability of, albeit a startup organization, but a kind of well-funded and well-matched startup doing good, responsible real estate underwriting.
Great. I appreciate that response.
Thanks.
And I'll just add one additional comment on that, but Andrew had pointed out the structure of our application is for the full recourse guidance line of credit. And so we will be providing that guarantee as part of our, if we were to be approved for an award.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to the voting stage for both of these proposals. Can I please ask if anyone needs to recuse themselves? I do need to recuse myself from CHI. Does anyone else on the board need to recuse themselves from either of these?
I need to recuse myself from Habitat.
Okay, we will vote on these separately then. Anybody else? Okay, I'd like to request a vote of approval for the Habitat for Humanity Fund.
So moved.
Thanks,
Second.
Sam. Thanks, Sam. Thank you, LaDon, for the second. All those in favor signify by aye or hand raise.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Great. We do have James recusing himself. Next up, if I could please have a vote of approval for the CHI Fund
So moved.
request. Thank you, LaDon.
Second.
Thanks, Sam, for the second. All those in favor signify by aye or hand raise.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I will be recusing myself on this one. All those in favor? Oh, no, we did that already. We're good. Okay, well, wonderful. Thank you all for your time today. I appreciate it. Congratulations to our applicants.
Congratulations.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.